The glass walls of Whitford Tower shimmered like cold steel that morning, catching the Manhattan sunrise and slicing it into ruthless angles. Inside, the boardroom was already full executives in tailored suits, assistants clutching iPads, and a cold tension humming beneath the polished oak table. Maddie Harper walked in holding a stack of financial reports, her breath steady, her heart hopeful. Today was supposed to be the day her strategic model saved Whitford Labs from a looming quarterly loss. But the moment she stepped through the door, the conversation stopped. Cole Whitford, her husband of 6 years, and the CEO stood at the head of the table in a charcoal suit that looked carved onto his frame. Beside him was a woman Maddie had never seen this close before, but recognized immediately. Sienna Vale, 25. Supermodel. Influencer. The face currently plastered on billboards across Fifth Avenue. Sienna rested a manicured hand on Cole's shoulder as if she owned him. And maybe she did. Maddie's stomach tightened. Something was wrong. The room felt staged, rehearsed. Even the executives avoided her eyes. Cole cleared his throat. "Maddie," he said, tone cold enough to frost the glass behind him, "I think it's time we address the truth. Our marriage is over." She blinked, unable to process the words. "What?" Cole didn't flinch. "I've filed the preliminary papers. Our lawyers will reach out to you today." Soft gasps rippled around the room. Sienna gave a sympathetic smile, the kind people give when they're not sorry at all. Her diamond bracelet caught the light as she intertwined her fingers with Cole's. Maddie felt as though the boardroom floor shifted under her. But Cole wasn't finished. "And as of this week," he continued, "Sienna will be partnering with Whitford Labs for our new brand campaign. She represents the direction this company needs. A direction that didn't include Maddie." Maddie felt her pulse climbing into her throat. "Cole, can we talk privately?" "No." His tone snapped through the room. "This is the conversation." Her vision blurred. She clutched the edge of the table to steady herself. She thought about the nights she stayed up building financial projections for him, the mornings she packed his lunch when he was running late, the years she spent believing love meant sacrifice. A hushed whisper came from her left. "I heard he's been seeing Sienna for months." She didn't know. Another voice murmured. Maddie's lungs tightened. She felt humiliation burn hot under her skin. Cole turned back to the board. "Let's continue. We have no time for emotional interruptions." "Huh." The room shifted back into motion except for Maddie, frozen in place as if her life had cracked open and spilled onto the polished hardwood. Her hands trembled. Her heart pounded. Something inside her chest, something trusting and soft, shattered completely. And then she felt it. A sharp pain low in her abdomen. She gasped and staggered. Cole didn't even look at her. But one executive did. His eyes widened. "Maddie, your face. You're pale, are you?" She couldn't answer. The room spun. The report slipped from her hands and scattered across the floor like broken glass. And as she collapsed, grasping for air, one terrifying realization struck her. This wasn't heartbreak. Something was happening inside her body. And it was about to change everything. The rain came down in thin, icy needles against the cracked apartment window, and Madeline Harper lay curled on the sagging gray couch, clutching a pillow to her chest, as if it were the last warm thing left in her life. Just 12 hours earlier, she had collapsed in the Whitford Tower boardroom. Now she was back in the tiny one-bedroom apartment she'd rented in Queens, her emergency space, a place Cole never bothered to ask about, because he never imagined she'd need one. It smelled faintly of old carpet and burnt toast from the neighbor upstairs. Nothing luxurious, nothing comforting, just survival. Maddie pressed a trembling hand to her abdomen. The strange pain had dulled since the collapse, but it still pulsed in small, frightening waves. The doctor's words echoed in her mind. "You're under severe stress. It could be exhaustion. But you need monitoring. Come back for a full scan tomorrow." Tomorrow. She didn't know if she'd emotionally survive tonight. Her phone lit up on the coffee table, an old iPhone with a spiderweb crack across the corner. A message from her manager. "Maddie, because of today's incident, HR has temporarily suspended you. We'll discuss next steps." The world tilted. Suspended. No job. No insurance security. No income beyond the small savings she kept quietly from Cole, barely enough to cover rent. And Cole, he hadn't sent even a single message to check if she was alive. Maddie swallowed a sob. She stared at the ceiling, tracing the water stains that formed crooked shapes, a habit she'd developed years ago, back when life already felt like it was getting too heavy. A knock startled her. She sat up slowly. "Who is it?" "It's me. Dylan, Cole's junior assistant. 29. Sharp. Quiet. The only person in that office who ever treated her like more than an accessory on Cole's arm." Maddie hesitated before unlocking the door. Dylan stood drenched on her doorstep, rain dripping off his jacket, chest rising as if he had run full speed. "You shouldn't be alone," he said softly. She tried to steady her voice. "I'm fine." "No, you're not." A tear betrayed her, sliding down her cheek. Dylan stepped inside and placed a small paper bag on the table. "I brought soup from the deli across the street. And electrolytes, and—" he held up a folded blanket. "I figured you might need this." 1. The kindness felt like a knife twisting deeper into her chest, not because it hurt, but because she hadn't felt it in so long. She sank onto the couch again, shoulders trembling. Everything fell apart in one day. "No," Dylan said gently. "It didn't fall apart today. Cole has been pushing things to break for a long time. Today you just finally saw the truth." His words were honest. Brutally so. Maddie wiped her eyes, but the tears kept coming. "He humiliated me. In front of everyone. And Sienna, she looked at me like I was some pathetic obstacle." "She's temporary," Dylan muttered before catching himself. "I mean, she's not what she pretends to be. Neither of them are." Something in his tone was off. "Dylan, what do you know?" He froze. Rain pounded the window. The room grew still. "I shouldn't say anything," he whispered. "Not yet. Please." He stared at her for a long moment, jaw clenching, before he reached into his backpack. He pulled out a small silver flash drive and placed it in her palm. "You'll understand everything soon," he said. "About Cole. About Sienna. About why today happened the way it did." Maddie stared at the flash drive as if it were radioactive. "What's on this?" Dylan exhaled shakily. "Evidence," he said. "And if what the doctor suspects is right. And you are pregnant." His voice faltered. "Then this drive might be the only thing that keeps you safe." Her heart stopped. "Pregnant?" Her fingers trembled around the flash drive. But before she could ask anything else, Dylan lowered his voice to a terrified whisper. "Maddie, someone altered your medical records at Whitford Labs." Her breath caught. And it wasn't an accident. The next evening, Manhattan glowed like a crown of gold and glass. Limousines lined the circular driveway of the Plaza Hotel, their headlights slicing through the soft drizzle that coated Fifth Avenue. Inside, the grand ballroom brimmed with royalty of the American corporate world, bankers, tech founders, fashion elites, donors wearing diamonds that cost more than Maddie's annual salary. Orchestra music floated warm and sweet across the chandeliers, hiding the cruelty beneath the glitter. This was the Whitford Labs charity gala, and tonight, Cole Whitford intended to introduce Sienna Vale as his future. Maddie watched the live stream from her Queens apartment, the same sagging couch, the same dim glow from a cheap lamp, but her heart felt heavier tonight. The soup Dylan brought sat untouched beside her. Her stomach churned with a mixture of nausea and dread. She hadn't slept. She hadn't eaten. And she hadn't dared open the flash drive yet. On the TV screen, Cole descended the marble staircase with Sienna on his arm. Sienna's dress was a shimmering silver column that hugged her like liquid moonlight. Reporters shouted her name as if she were royalty. Cole looked like a man in love. No, more accurately, a man performing love. With each step, he squeezed her waist just enough for the cameras to catch. She smiled like a woman who had already won. Maddie hugged her knees on the couch, feeling painfully small. "Just 6 years," she whispered. 6 years, and he replaced me in 6 weeks. Oh, but it wasn't 6 weeks. Somewhere deep down, she knew it had been much longer. A reporter asked loudly, "Cole, is it true Maddie Harper had a breakdown in the boardroom yesterday?" Maddie sat straighter, breath caught. Cole adjusted his cufflink with calm arrogance. "Maddie has struggled with emotional issues for a while. I wish her well, but I need stability in my life and in my leadership." The room laughed politely. Sienna rested her head on Cole's shoulder, like an actress hitting her cue. Maddie felt the sting behind her eyes hot, salty, humiliating. Her own husband had weaponized her collapse. She pressed a hand to her mouth, trying to steady her breath, but the ache kept rising, climbing her ribs like a slow-burning fire. Then the second blow came. The host announced, "Ladies and gentlemen, tonight, Whitford Labs also celebrates our new creative ambassador, the stunning Sienna Vale." Hull. The crowd erupted in applause as Sienna stepped forward, blowing kisses. Maddie's hands formed fists. She watched in disbelief as Sienna spoke into the microphone. "Cole and I are building something beautiful professionally and personally." Personally, that word sliced her open. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Don't believe what you're seeing. He's not done with you yet. And what he's planning is worse than you think." Her blood ran cold. Another message followed instantly. "You need to open the flash drive." But she couldn't. Not yet. Her hands were shaking too violently. Back on the screen, Cole kissed Sienna on the cheek as flashes exploded around them. The photographers cheered. Investors clapped. Cole drank in the attention like expensive wine. And then, as Sienna leaned in to whisper something to Cole, his eyes flicked down the ballroom stairs. His entire expression froze. The camera panned, following his line of sight, and Maddie's heart nearly stopped. Because standing in the back of the ballroom, dressed in a dark suit, hands casually in his pockets, was Graham Alden, stoic, silent, watching Cole with the unblinking intensity of a man who knew too much. Cole's throat bobbed, his jaw clenched. Sienna noticed. "Cole? What's wrong?" Cole didn't answer. He looked like a man who had just seen a ghost. Or worse, someone who had arrived to burn his world down. The morning after the gala, the sky over New York was a washed-out gray, the kind that made the city feel lonelier than it already was. Maddie Harper sat at her tiny kitchen table in Queens, a chipped mug of cold coffee sitting untouched in front of her. She felt hollow, like the night had scraped something out of her chest and left nothing but the ache behind. The live stream replayed in her head on a cruel loop, Cole beaming beside Sienna, reporters laughing, guests applauding. Her name dragged through whispers about mental instability. She closed her eyes, trying to breathe through the humiliation, but every inhale trembled. A sharp knock rattled the door. Maddie's heart skipped. No one visited her here. She stood up slowly, each step toward the door fueled by dread. When she opened it, she found a woman in a tailored black coat, hair in a sleek bun, leather briefcase in hand. "Madeline Harper?" the woman asked. "Yes." The woman handed over a stark white envelope. "You've been served." The envelope felt heavier than paper should. Maddie opened it with shaking fingers. Her vision blurred as she skimmed the first lines. Notice of spousal support denial. Notice of forced property separation. Notice of reputational review initiated by Whitford Labs. She dropped into the nearest chair. Cole wasn't just divorcing her. He was erasing her. A second knock hit the door before she could even breathe. This time it was her landlord, Mr. Donahue, holding a clipboard awkwardly. "Maddie, I'm really sorry, kid. I got a call from Whitford Labs' legal department this morning." "What?" she whispered. "They said you're going through issues. That you might need supervised housing?" He winced. "I know it sounds insane, but they're pressuring me. Hard. They hinted the zoning board could make trouble for me if I don't reevaluate your lease." Her mouth fell open. "Cole did this? I'm sorry. You have 30 days. 30 days. A single tear slid down her cheek as she nodded numbly. When the door closed, she pressed both hands to her forehead, trying to stop the panic spiraling inside her. Cole was making her look unstable, dangerous, as if she were the problem. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "He's trying to frame you. He needs you to look unfit before the IPO." A second buzz. "Open the flash drive, Maddie." She stared at the drive lying on the counter, small, silver, ominous. But before she could reach for it, her phone rang. Cole. Her stomach twisted as she answered. His voice was shockingly calm. Too calm. "Madeline, I heard you caused a scene with the landlord." "I what?" "Cole, stop lying. You're manipulating everyone. This is what I mean." His voice sharpened. "This paranoia, these accusations. You need help." She froze. He was flipping the narrative perfectly. He continued. I've spoken to a family court consultant. They agree we should start preparing custody arrangements. Custody? Her chest tightened. Cole, I haven't even— You're pregnant, he said flatly. Her heart stopped. How do you? You should have checked your insurance records, he said. I already have the preliminary documentation. She felt sick. He had known before she did. He'd been watching her records, tracking her. And don't worry, Cole added. Once the babies are here, I'll make sure they're raised in a stable environment. Her hand trembled. You're taking my children? You're not well, Maddie. Everyone can see it. She felt her breath ripping out of her lungs. You can fight, Cole said casually. But I have a full legal team. You have— What? A temp job you're suspended from? A tear slid down her throat. He was already burying her alive. Cole ended the call with a final blow. Sign the papers, Maddie. It's the last kindness I can offer. The line went dead. She stared at her reflection in the dark screen. Her world shrank. And without meaning to, her hand touched her abdomen. Because somewhere deep inside her, something moved. The subway ride back to Queens felt like moving through a tunnel of underwater echoes. Every sound metal screeching on tracks, the hiss of the doors pierced through Madeline Harper's skull like needles. Her pulse was too fast, too loud, thundering under her skin, as if her body were warning her that something was coming, something she couldn't outrun. When she finally stepped off the train, the world spun with a nauseating tilt. She pressed a hand to the cool concrete pillar, willing her breathing to steady. It didn't. Her vision flickered like a dying street lamp. She whispered to herself, "It's just stress. Just breathe, Maddie, breathe." But her body disagreed. As she pushed open the gate to her apartment building, a sharp pain sliced across her lower abdomen. Her knees buckled. She gasped, clutching her stomach, the same spot that had throbbed in the boardroom, the same spot that had pulsed the entire night. She barely made it to her front door before a second wave of pain hit harder, deeper. A strangled cry escaped her. Something was terribly, terribly wrong. She fumbled for her phone, but her fingers slipped. The device fell to the floor, screen lighting up with Dylan's earlier text. "Open the drive, Maddie, before he takes everything." She didn't get the chance. Her vision collapsed into black. A siren wailed. Bright lights. Cold air. Voices. Maddie opened her eyes to harsh fluorescent lights streaking above her like comets. The metallic scent of disinfectant filled her nose. She felt movement, a stretcher rolling across a hospital hallway. A paramedic leaned over her. "Ma'am, stay with me. You were found unconscious outside your building." Her lips parted, but only a whisper escaped. "The pain, my stomach. We're getting you to a trauma bay," he said firmly. "Just hold on." The panic hit like a tidal wave. Am I losing?" "Don't think the worst," he said. "Let the doctors examine you first." But that only made her fear sharper. Inside the ER, chaos blurred around her. Nurses adjusted IV lines. Machines beeped. A doctor in navy scrubs approached, his face etched with concern. "I'm Dr. Lawson. Maddie, you fainted from acute abdominal pain. We need to run a scan immediately." Her throat tightened. "Is it serious?" "Right now. We need clarity." "Any chance you could be—" He stopped, looked at the monitor. Then his eyes widened slightly. "What?" Maddie whispered. "What do you see?" He exhaled, steady but unmistakably startled. "Miss Harper, you're pregnant." The words shattered her. Pregnant. Her mind raced through every argument with Cole, every cold night alone, every moment she thought she was simply exhausted or anxious. But Dr. Lawson wasn't done. "And we aren't seeing one heartbeat," he said gently. "We're seeing two. Twins." Her hand flew to her mouth. She was carrying Cole's children. The doctor continued. "Your hormone levels indicate early but viable development. The pain you felt likely came from a combination of severe stress and blood pressure spikes. We'll monitor you closely." Tears streamed down her temples onto the pillow. Twins. And Cole already knew. He had known before she did. He had accessed her medical records. He was already planning custody. Her body shook with silent sobs. Dr. Lawson rested a hand on her shoulder. "You're not alone now, Maddie. You have 2 lives depending on you. We'll protect all 3 of you." But Maddie wasn't crying from fear alone. She was crying because reality had finally cracked open, and beneath it was a truth far darker than she ever imagined. Cole didn't just betray her. He was preparing to take her children away before they even entered the world. And now that she carried more than just her own life, the war between them had officially begun. The hospital discharged Maddie at sundown, warning her to avoid stress and instruction, as impossible as asking Manhattan traffic to calm down. She walked slowly toward the exit, clutching the packet of prenatal documents Dr. Lawson had given her. The crisp papers crinkled beneath her trembling fingers. Twin pregnancy. One sheet read, "High risk," another warned. It felt surreal, like the universe had handed her a miracle wrapped inside a nightmare. The cold air slapped her cheeks as she stepped outside. Evening lights shimmered across the city skyline, bright and indifferent. Yellow taxis honked. Strangers talked loudly into their phones. Everyone moved on with their lives. Except Maddie. She wrapped her arms around herself and whispered into the wind, "How am I supposed to do this alone?" No answer came. A bus roared past, kicking up a spray of slush onto her shoes. Her breath hitched. Her body was exhausted. Her spirit even more so. But she forced herself forward, one slow step at a time, until she made it to a small bench by the hospital entrance. Saturday. And everything inside her finally, violently cracked. The sob tore out of her like something feral. She pressed both hands to her face, shoulders shaking. She cried for the betrayal, the humiliation, the unborn children she already feared she wasn't strong enough to protect. She cried for the girl she used to be, the one who believed love would save her. She cried until the air burned in her chest. Her phone buzzed weakly in her bag, but she couldn't bring herself to pick it up. Not yet. She didn't want more bad news. She didn't want to hear Cole's voice twisting reality into lies. She didn't want to open the flash drive that Dylan said could keep her alive. She just wanted, for one moment, to breathe. Footsteps approached. Maddie? Her body stiffened. She looked up, and her heart dropped. It wasn't Dylan. It was Cole. He stood a few feet away, dressed in a sharp black coat, hair styled like the cameras were still watching him. He didn't look worried. He didn't look sorry. He looked annoyed. "What are you doing here?" she whispered. "I got a notification about your ER visit," Cole said flatly. "You should have told me you were being reckless with your health." Reckless. As if fainting outside her home was an inconvenience to him. Her voice cracked. "You knew I was pregnant, and you should have taken better care of yourself," he shot back. "Do you realize what you almost jeopardized?" "My health?" she asked bitterly. "My legacy," he corrected without shame. "The twins." The words were a slap. Her breath caught painful, sharp. Cole stepped closer. "Listen, I don't want to fight. You signed the divorce papers. You agree to supervised visitation, and I'll make sure you're comfortable." "Supervised?" she whispered. "You think I'm unfit?" "I think you fainted before you even knew you were pregnant." His lips curled. "Imagine what a judge would say." She felt the blood drain from her face. He continued, voice low and dangerous. "Your medical records already show signs of instability." "One." Her eyes widened. "Because you altered them." He didn't deny it. Instead, the corner of his mouth lifted. "It's not personal, Maddie. It's business." A tear slid silently down her cheek. Cole leaned closer. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be." For a moment, she couldn't breathe. But then, another voice cut through the cold air. "Step away from her." Cole stiffened, turning sharply. And Maddie's breath caught when she saw who stood there. Tall. Calm. Eyes burning with a quiet storm. Graham Alden. And the look he gave Cole Whitford was the look of a man ready to dismantle an empire brick by brick. For a moment, the world froze between the three of them, Maddie trembling on the bench, Cole stiff with irritation, and Graham Alden standing like a quiet storm ready to break open. Graham stepped closer, his long coat brushing against the icy wind. The glow from the hospital entrance cast a halo around him, turning his presence almost unreal. "I said," Graham repeated, voice calm but sharp as glass, "step away from her." Cole let out a short, incredulous laugh. "You're kidding me, Graham Alden, Wall Street's golden boy? What did you follow her here?" "I drove her here," Graham corrected, "because she fainted alone outside her building." "Which you caused," Cole scoffed. "This is a private matter." Not anymore, Graham said. Not when you're manipulating her medical records. Not when you're trying to weaponize her pregnancy for your IPO. The color drained from Cole's face just slightly, but enough for Maddie to feel it like a spark in the cold air. Her voice trembled. Graham, how do you know all that? Graham turned to her, and something softened in his eyes. Because I've been tracking Whitford Labs for months, and because I don't trust him. He gestured lightly toward Cole, as if pointing out a stain. Cole's jaw tightened. This isn't any of your business. Len. Graham stepped between Maddie and Cole, posture protective, voice low. She is my business. The words hung in the air. Maddie's breath caught. She wasn't sure she heard him correctly. Cole's lip curled. So that's your angle. You want her. Graham didn't deny it. Instead, he said quietly, I want her safe. The silence that followed was electric dangerous. Cole broke first. You think Maddie can just run to you? After everything? She can't even handle her own life. That was the moment Graham's composure cracked. He grabbed Cole by the lapel, not violently, but with the force of a man who'd been silent long enough. You don't get to talk about her like that. Maddie gasped. Graham. He released Cole before anything escalated. But the message had been delivered. Cole straightened his jacket, eyes dark with fury. You're making a mistake, Maddie. He's not who you think he is. Graham's voice chilled. Tell her. Then. Cole blinked. Tell her what? That you paid a private investigator to dig into her past. That you told investors she was emotionally fragile. That you forged signatures on her health insurance forms to appear unstable. Maddie's stomach twisted. Cole. Is that true? Cole hesitated, and the hesitation was the answer. Her knees weakened. She leaned into the bench as the night closed in around her. Graham knelt beside her. Maddie, he said softly, you need to hear something else. Something I should have told you years ago. She lifted her eyes, afraid. He took a breath. When you and Cole first started dating, he approached my firm for an investment. I ran background checks on him, and I saw everything. Everything what? She whispered. Graham swallowed. The cheating, the financial fraud, the fake accounts, the manipulation patterns. I tried to warn you, but you never said anything, Maddie whispered, hurt slicing through her. You were happy, he said, quiet but urgent. And I didn't want to be the reason it broke. I thought you'd eventually see who he was. Cole exploded. You should have stayed out of it. Graham stood again, calm returning. I will never stay out of anything that involves her safety. Not again. Maddie stared at him, eyes filling with tears, not of weakness, but of realization. Graham wasn't a stranger. He wasn't a coincidental ally. He had been there watching, protecting, waiting for years. Cole pointed a finger at Maddie, voice shaking with fury. If you walk away with him, you'll regret it. I promise you. Graham stepped in front of her again. No, he said. The only one who should be afraid of what comes next. He looked Cole dead in the eyes. Is you. The next morning crept in quietly, slipping through the blinds of Maddie's tiny Queen's apartment in pale strips of gold. She hadn't slept. Her body ached, her eyes burned, and her pulse still trembled with the aftermath of last night's confrontation. But beneath the exhaustion, something new simmered, a small, flickering ember of anger. Not fear, not defeat. Anger. She sat at her kitchen table, the same chipped surface, where she'd cried only days before. But now, a silver flash drive sat in front of her like a loaded weapon. Dylan's warning echoed in her head. This might be the only thing that keeps you safe. Maddie reached for it slowly, as if touching a fragile truth. Her hands shook, but she slid the drive into her old, battered MacBook Air, the one Cole said made her look unprofessional. The screen flickered to life. A folder popped up. Whitford, Docs, Do, Not, Delete. Her Stomach knotted. She clicked. At first, there were spreadsheets. Boring ones. Budget allocations. Marketing metrics. But then she saw a second folder. Private CW only. Her breath hitched. Inside were dozens of documents, and something worse. Videos. Her fingers froze above the trackpad. She clicked the first one. Cole's voice filled the speakers flat, calculating. She's becoming a liability. Emotional instability will justify removing her from the picture. Sienna agrees the timing is right before the IPO. Maddie's heart slammed against her ribs. Next file. Sienna's voice. Don't worry, baby. Once we announce, everyone will see Maddie for what she is. You'll have full custody. Investors love a clean narrative. Maddie covered her mouth, tears blurring her vision. And then, a forged medical form. Her name, her signature, except it wasn't hers. Cole had checked a box. Patient demonstrates early signs of psychological decline. Her hand shook violently. She had trusted him, loved him, cooked for him, built strategies for his company late into the night. And all that time, Cole had been preparing to destroy her reputation with surgical precision. She opened the final document, a legal draft titled, Custody Strategy Post-Divorce. The first sentence made her blood run cold. Given Madeline Harper's unstable profile, full parental rights should default to Cole Whitford immediately upon birth of the twins. Her breath stopped. Twins. He had written this before he ever told her she was pregnant. The room tilted. She thought she might faint again, but something raw and primal surged inside her, a protective force she didn't know she had. You won't take my children, she whispered, voice cracking. Not anymore. Not ever. A soft vibration rattled the table, her phone lighting up. Dylan. Finally. Someone she could trust. She answered with a whisper. I saw everything. He exhaled shakily. I knew you needed the truth. I'm so sorry you had to see it alone. Why are you helping me? Maddie asked. Cole will fire you, if he finds out. There was a pause. Then, Maddie, he already did. She stiffened. What? He blamed me for a leaked financial file. He fired me yesterday morning. I figured, if I'm already ruined, I might as well help the right person. Her throat closed. Dylan. Thank you. But listen, he continued quickly, voice tight with urgency. Cole's planning something today. Something big. Sienna is pushing him to go public with your instability. You need help. Someone with power. Maddie closed her eyes. One name rose instantly in her mind. Graham. Like a steady hand reaching into the dark. Dylan whispered, call him, before Cole makes his move. Maddie stared at her reflection in the laptop screen, pale, bruised by life, but no longer broken. Something new lived in her eyes now. Something fierce. She picked up her phone and dialed Graham Alden. As the phone rang, a calm washed over her, not weakness, not fear. Resolve. Because for the first time since her world shattered, Madeline Harper was ready to fight. Graham Alden arrived at Madeline Harper's Queen's apartment less than an hour after she called him. He didn't bring bodyguards or assistants or a sleek black Mercedes. He came alone with determination carved into every line of his face. When Maddie opened the door, he didn't wait for explanations. He simply asked, Are you hurt? She shook her head. Then tell me everything. And she did. Every forged document, every recorded conversation, every threat Cole made, every plan he had to strip her of custody before the twins even had a heartbeat strong enough to register. By the time she finished, Graham's jaw was clenched so tight the muscle twitched. He altered your medical records. His voice was ice. That's a felony. And forging your signature, that's another felony. Manipulating company data tied to a pre-IPO valuation, he's begging for prison time. Maddie swallowed. He thinks he's untouchable. Graham stepped closer. Then we will make him touch the ground. Before she could answer, a notification flashed across her phone screen. Whitford Labs press conference. Live stream in 2 minutes. Maddie's stomach twisted. She tapped the link with trembling fingers. The video loaded. Cole stood at a sleek podium in a dark charcoal suit inside the Whitford Labs auditorium. Reporters filled the seats. Flashing cameras lit the room like lightning. Sienna stood beside Cole, wearing a white dress that screamed innocence. Cole adjusted the mic, wearing the same rehearsed sorrow he used when comforting investors. I want to address recent events regarding my estranged wife, Madeline Harper, he began. Maddie felt the blood drain from her face. She has been struggling with overwhelming emotional challenges, Cole continued. The board and I have deep concern for her well-being. Sadly, she has behaved irrationally and endangered herself. Mo. Sienna made a sympathetic face. He's setting you up, Graham muttered. This is the unstable mother narrative. Classic PR manipulation. Cole kept going. For the safety of my family, including my unborn children, I am preparing to request full custody. Our legal and medical teams have agreed this is in the best interest of the twins. The room murmured in shock. Maddie grabbed the couch for balance. He planned this. He planned all of this. Ho. And then, Sienna stepped forward, placing a delicate hand on Cole's chest. I only want peace for the babies, she said sweetly. Maddie needs help, not pressure. Graham snorted. I've met snakes with more sincerity. Cole wasn't finished. As of today, he said, we will begin the legal process to ensure Maddie receives the mental support she needs. Maddie whispered, he's trying to institutionalize me. Graham didn't hesitate. Turn that off. She did. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't pace or panic. Instead, he pulled his phone out and scrolled through contacts until he found the one he wanted. Who are you calling? Maddie asked. A friend at the Chronicle, Graham said. The paper Amara Quint owns. The billionaire heiress? She despises corporate men who abuse women. The call connected instantly. Graham, a smooth voice answered. Tell me why you're calling with a storm in your tone. I have a story for you, Graham said. One involving criminal medical tampering, a forged custody strategy, and a CEO setting up his pregnant wife to look insane. A pause. Then, send everything. Maddie blinked. You're exposing him to the press? Graham shook his head. No, Maddie. We're burning his narrative before it's fully built. He opened his laptop and plugged in the flash drive. For a moment, Maddie couldn't speak. Her throat was too tight, her chest too full, not with fear, but with something she hadn't felt in months. Hope. Graham glanced at her gently. Cole wants war. Let's give him one he's not prepared for. Before she could respond, her phone buzzed again. Another notification. This one not from a reporter. Not from Dylan. Not from Graham. It was from Cole himself. It's over, Maddie. I warned you. By tomorrow, everyone will know what you are. Her hand trembled. But this time, she didn't feel powerless. She looked at Graham. He nodded. Then by tomorrow, he said, everyone will know what he really is. The next morning, New York woke up to freezing rain and breaking news. Not the news Cole Whitford had planned. Not the narrative of the unstable ex-wife he had carefully prepared. Instead, the Chronicle front page. Whitford CEO, accused of medical fraud, custody manipulation, and corporate deception. A photo of Cole, smug, polished, perfect, sat beside screenshots taken directly from the flash drive. The forged medical form. The custody strategy. The leaked audio of Cole calling Maddie a liability. The headline spread like wildfire across every platform. Twitter, Instagram, Yahoo Finance, CNBC scroll bars. By 7:03 a.m., Whitford Labs stock had dropped 11%. By 7:11 a.m., it dropped 18%. By 7:20 a.m., it was in full freefall. And Madeline Harper watched from her couch, one hand on her belly, the other gripping Graham's arm as if needing something solid to keep her grounded. Her heart pounded. Graham, they published everything. That was the point, he said gently. Sunlight is the best disinfectant. Her phone buzzed nonstop, friends, co-workers, strangers, thanking her for speaking out. She hadn't spoken, but she didn't correct them. She wasn't ready. Not yet. The TV blared with breaking commentary. This could be one of the worst PR disasters for a tech CEO in years. If the allegations are true, Whitford Labs may face federal investigation. 1. The pregnant wife at the center of this Madeline Harper may become the most important witness. Maddie covered her mouth, tears welling not from fear this time, but from shock, relief, disbelief. The tide was turning. For the first time in months, she was no longer drowning. But the moment of peace didn't last. Because at 7:34 a.m., someone pounded on her door. Hard. Graham stood instantly, shielding her with his body. Stay behind me. The knocks grew louder. Maddie. Cole's voice roared from the hallway. Open this door right now. Her body froze. Her blood turned to ice. Graham didn't hesitate. He opened the door just 2 inches enough to speak. Not enough for Cole to barge in. Cole's face was feral. Gone was the polished CEO persona. His eyes were bloodshot, hair disheveled, tie crooked. He looked like a man who had lost everything overnight. "You," he growled at Graham. "You did this." Graham stayed calm. "Correction. Your actions did this." "Where is she?" Cole hissed. "Maddie, you think this changes anything? I will get those kids." Maddie flinched. Graham stepped further into the doorway. "You won't get near her again. Legally or otherwise. She is my wife," Cole snapped. "Those are my children." "No," Maddie said quietly, stepping into view. Cole froze. Her voice trembled, but the tremble came from strength, not fear. "We stopped being married the moment you started planning my destruction." "Huh?" He stared at her, confused, furious, unraveling. "How could you?" he rasped. "After everything I did for you, everything you did to me." She corrected. He opened his mouth, but Graham cut him off. "There are reporters outside. Federal investigators already received copies of the files." He smiled subtle, lethal. "Your IPO is gone." Cole's face twisted into something unrecognizable. "You think you've won?" he spat. "This is temporary. I'll recover. I always recover." "One." Maddie stepped closer, eyes fierce despite the tremor in her hands. "You won't recover from who you really are." For the first time, Cole looked scared. Not of prison, not of scandal, but of her. He took a shaky breath and pointed a shaking finger. "This isn't over." Graham closed the door in his face. The lock clicked. Maddie sagged into the wall, tears streaming but not the broken kind. Something warm spread through her chest. Strength. Defiance. A spark of victory. Graham gently touched her shoulder. "Are you okay?" She nodded weakly. "For the first time, I think I might be." He offered a soft, almost reverent smile. "Good. Because this is just the beginning." The building felt too quiet once Cole's shouts faded down the hall, disappearing into the cold morning air. Maddie stood motionless in the center of her tiny living room, arms wrapped around herself as though she needed to physically hold her pieces together. Graham closed the blinds, shutting out the flashing lights of reporters gathering near the street. "They're multiplying," he muttered. The Chronicle story brought the vultures. Maddie lowered herself onto the couch, breath unsteady. "I never wanted this. I never wanted a scandal." "You didn't create it," Graham said gently. "You survived it." Survived. The word stung, because it was true. Graham sat across from her, elbows on his knees, his eyes studying her steady, protective, unreadable. It was comforting and unnerving at the same time. "You need legal protection," he said. "Cole will retaliate. He's too cornered not to." "I can't afford a lawyer," Maddie whispered. "He froze our joint accounts. He cut the cards." "You're not hiring anyone," Graham interrupted. "You're getting the best attorney in Manhattan, and you're not paying $1. She blinked. "Graham, A knock interrupted them. Loud, but not aggressive. Graham stood first, opening the door cautiously. A woman stepped inside, tall and elegant in a navy pantsuit, hair slicked back, energy sharp as a blade. She held a leather case embossed with gold initials. "NC." Maddie's eyes widened. "Nora Chambers?" Even Maddie, the girl who avoided confrontations and legal dramas, knew the name. Nora Chambers was the attorney that billionaires hired when they needed to destroy someone quietly or defend someone publicly with devastating precision. She won cases people called unwinnable. "Maddie." Nora extended a hand. "Graham briefed me." Maddie shook it weakly. "You came here for me?" "I don't make house calls," Nora said simply. "Unless someone is in real danger." That landed heavily. Nora opened her case, sliding documents onto the coffee table. "First, we file a restraining order. Second, we notify the federal investigation team that my client will cooperate. Third," she looked directly at Maddie, "we prepare to dismantle Cole Whitford one piece at a time." Maddie's breath caught. I don't want revenge." Nora's expression softened barely. "This isn't revenge. This is self-defense. A pause. And defense of your twins." The mention of the babies made Maddie's throat tighten. "I don't even know how to protect them." You already are," Nora said. "You exposed the truth." "I didn't," Maddie whispered. Graham. No. Graham cut in. You took the first step when you asked for help. Nora continued flipping through documents. Cole weaponized your medical records. That alone is enough to bury him. But there's more. Mr. King, she nodded toward the flash drive, provided everything we need to build a criminal case. Dylan? Maddie whispered. She hadn't realized how much trouble he risked for her. Oh, he did more than risk his job, Nora said. He risked his life. Cole doesn't react lightly to betrayal. Maddie's stomach twisted. Is Dylan safe? He is now, Nora answered. He's under my protection. It was too much. Too dark. Too dangerous. Maddie pressed her palms to her eyes. I can't believe Cole would go this far. No, Nora corrected. You didn't want to believe. But you knew. The signs were always there. Maddie lowered her hand slowly, meeting Nora's eyes. Why are you helping me? A long pause. Then Nora said something that sent a shiver down Maddie's spine. Because 15 years ago, I was engaged to a man just like Cole. And I promised myself, if I ever saw another woman walking into a trap she didn't set, I'd drag her out. Maddie's chest tightened. She didn't know whether to cry or to thank her or both. Nora stood, gathering the papers. I need your consent to move forward legally. Everything else? Leave it to me. Lund, Graham added quietly. You're not fighting alone anymore. Outside, reporters shouted Cole's name as he shoved through the crowd, face twisted with rage. Inside, Maddie looked at the signature line on Nora's document. Her hand trembled. Then she picked up the pen and signed. For herself. For her twins. For the life she would rebuild from the ashes Cole tried to bury her in. The backlash arrived faster than lightning. By noon, Sienna Vale's perfectly edited world collapsed under the weight of a scandal she helped create but never expected to be part of. Her Instagram comments were overflowing with fire. Homewrecker. Baby thief. Manipulating a pregnant woman. Disgusting. Cancel her. Sienna slammed her phone down on the marble vanity inside Cole's penthouse, her breath ragged. Cole, you need to fix this. Cole stood across the room with his phone pressed to his ear, pacing so aggressively the floor vibrated under his steps. Brad, listen to me, this investigation is blown out of proportion. I can control the narrative. I just need time. A pause. Then a cold voice on the other end. Even Maddie could hear it from the live stream. There is no time, Cole. The board is calling an emergency meeting. Investors already want your resignation. Cole's neck reddened. I built this company. How? Well, the voice said dryly. Then you should have protected it. The call ended. Cole hurled the phone against the wall so hard it shattered. Sienna flinched. Are you insane? Cole turned on her, eyes flashing with something feral. This is your fault. My fault, she shrieked. You're the one who forged medical files. I didn't tell you to be stupid. Cole stormed toward her, jaw clenched. If you kept your mouth shut, the audio wouldn't have leaked. Sienna recoiled. I didn't leak anything. Cole froze. A beat of silence. Then his eyes narrowed. If not you, then who? But Sienna's mind was already spiraling. She stormed into the bedroom, grabbing a Cartier bracelet off the nightstand, ripping it off her wrist. I didn't sign up for this kind of heat. I wanted influence, not federal investigators outside the building. Cole followed her. You're not leaving. She spun around, her laugh cold and sharp. Watch me. Rin. Sienna, he warned. If you walk out that door. What? She shot back. You'll forge my medical records too? He stiffened. She smirked. That's what I thought. You're all threats and no power. Sienna grabbed her purse, heels clicking sharply as she stormed toward the elevator. But before she stepped inside, she turned back with one last cruel twist of her knife. You want the truth, Cole. I never loved you. Her lips curled. I loved the version of you who still mattered. Mun. The elevator doors slid shut. Cole was finally, brutally alone. Meanwhile, across the city, Maddie sat across from Nora Chambers in a private conference room inside the law offices of Chambers and Tate. It smelled of mahogany, paper, and quiet power. Graham stood behind Maddie like a guard posted at her back. Nora placed a folder on the table. Whitford Labs is hosting a board meeting in 20 minutes. They're preparing a vote to suspend Cole indefinitely. Maddie swallowed. He'll blame me for everything. He can blame the weather too, Nora replied, but it won't stop the rain. Graham leaned forward. What's our next step? Nora slid a form toward Maddie. A temporary custody protection order. Once signed, Cole cannot approach you without court approval. If he tries, we can have him detained. Maddie hesitated, pen hovering. He'll retaliate. Yes, Nora said. He already has. The question is, will you defend yourself? Maddie looked at her trembling hands. Then she remembered. The forged documents. The custody strategy written before she knew she was pregnant. Cole calling her unstable in public. Sienna smirking beside him. The twins inside her, fighting to survive. And Graham's hand on her shoulder, steadying her when her world tilted. Maddie signed the order. Back at Whitford Labs. Cole burst into the boardroom, tie crooked, hair disheveled, panic written all over his face. The board chairman stood. Cole Whitford, due to the allegations and evidence presented, we hereby vote on your immediate removal as CEO. Voices echoed around the table. I. Cole slammed his fist onto the table. You can't do this. The chairman's eyes were icy. You already did. The vote passed. Cole Whitford's empire collapsed in a single breath. And somewhere across Manhattan, Madeline Harper finally felt the first whisper of justice. The night Cole was removed as CEO, Manhattan was drowning in a winter storm, sheets of icy rain slamming against skyscrapers, winds howling like the city itself was rebelling. Maddie watched the lightning flicker beyond the tinted windows of Chambers and Tate as she clutched her stomach, a pressure building deep inside her. Not pine. Not exactly. More like warning. Graham noticed immediately. Maddie, are you okay? She forced a breath. Just cramps. Probably stress. But Nora Chambers looked up sharply from her files. How far along are you? Still early, Maddie murmured, pressing a hand against her side. The doctor said I need rest. Nora closed the binder with a decisive thud. Then we're done for tonight. Stress at this stage, with twins, is dangerous. Dangerous. The word echoed inside Maddie's ribcage like a bell. She stood slowly, gripping the table for balance, but the room tilted. A sudden wave of dizziness crashed over her, blinding, suffocating. She sucked in a breath as a bolt of pain shot through her abdomen. Graham rushed to her side. Maddie, Hernis Baklil. The floor vanished. Darkness swallowed her whole. She woke to the sound of sirens. The ceiling of the ambulance blurred above her. Rain pounded the metal roof. Flashing red lights painted the world in warning. A paramedic leaned over her. Miss Harper, stay with me. You're having early contractions. We need to stabilize you. Her heart dropped. No. They're too early. A sob ripped out of her. My babies are too small. We're doing everything we can, the paramedic said gently, adjusting the IV. Hang on. She felt the stretcher lurch as the ambulance sped through the storm. Where's Graham? Maddie gasped. A voice came from behind her, fierce and steady. I'm right here. Low. She turned her head. Graham was in the ambulance, soaked from the storm, gripping the railing with white knuckles. His eyes, usually controlled and calm, were raw with fear. Maddie, he whispered, just breathe. I won't let anything happen to you or the twins. His hand wrapped around hers, warm and grounding, keeping her tethered to the world. But another contraction hit sharp, vicious. Maddie cried out, her whole body tense. We're almost there, the paramedic said. Just another minute. The hospital was chaos. Nurses burst through the ER doors, pushing her stretcher toward a high-risk maternity wing. Machines beeped. Cold air stung her skin. Her vision blurred. A doctor approached quickly. Miss Harper, I'm Dr. Reyes. You're experiencing early labor. We need to stop the contractions before they progress. I can't lose them, Maddie whispered, voice breaking. Please, I can't lose them. We're not going to let that happen, Dr. Reyes said firmly. But we need you calm. Elevated blood pressure can trigger dangerous complications. Graham leaned over her, brushing damp hair from her forehead. You're not alone. I'm right here. His voice steady, warm, became her anchor. But then her phone, tucked in her coat pocket, vibrated violently. Nora Chambers' voice burst from the speaker. Cole knows you're in the hospital. He's on his way. Maddie's blood ran cold. "No," she whispered. "He can't come here. He can't." Graham grabbed the phone. "Nora, call security. Lock every entrance. He's not stepping within a mile of her. Not tonight." "I already did," Nora replied. "But you need to be prepared." "He's furious." The call ended. Inside the high-risk labor room, the monitors beeped erratically. Maddie's breath came in shallow gasps. Dr. Reyes injected something into the IV. "This will help stop the contractions." Maddie squeezed her eyes shut, praying, "Please hold on. Please stay with me. Please. Please." Slowly, mercifully, the stabbing pain eased. The contractions dulled. Her heartbeat steadied. Dr. Reyes exhaled deeply. "Good. They're slowing. The babies are responding well." Tears streamed down Maddie's cheeks. Her body sagged with relief. "They're fighters," she whispered. Graham's voice choked. "Just like their mother." But before the relief could settle, security burst into the room. "Mr. Alden," one guard said urgently, "Cole Whitford is in the building." "What?" Maddie's breath caught. The storm outside raged harder. And inside the hospital, a new storm, deadlier, more personal, had just arrived at her door. The storm outside had turned the hospital windows into trembling mirrors, rain hammering against the glass like frantic fingertips. Maddie lay in the high-risk maternity room, sweat dampening her forehead, monitors beeping steadily beside her. Her body ached from the contractions that had nearly stolen her babies before they ever took a breath. Dr. Reyes checked the chart again. "The contractions have slowed, but your blood pressure is unstable. We need to keep you under close watch." Maddie nodded weakly, eyes fluttering. She felt fragile, like a glass ornament someone had dropped and caught at the last possible moment. But she wasn't the only one fighting. The twins were fighting too. Graham stood at her bedside, refusing to sit, refusing to blink for too long. His eyes, normally cool, composed, looked haunted. Every time Maddie's monitor beeped irregularly, his shoulders tightened. Then the door burst open. A security guard rushed in. "Mr. Alden, the subject has reached the maternity floor." Maddie's stomach dropped. No, he can't be here. He can't." Graham moved instantly, his calm evaporating. "Maddie, I'll handle him. You stay with the doctor. Do not get out of this bed." "What if he gets in?" she whispered. Graham cupped her cheek, voice low but fierce. "I won't let him, not tonight. Not ever again." He stepped out of the room with the guard, shutting the door behind him. The hallway exploded with shouting. Cole's voice, sharp, furious, echoed against the sterile walls. "I have a right to see her. Those are my children." Graham's voice thundered back, steady and cold as winter steel. "You lost every right the moment you tried to destroy her." Maddie's heart pounded. Her hand slipped instinctively to her abdomen. Stay calm. But the stress made a sharp ache curl across her belly, and she sucked in a breath. Dr. Reyes noticed immediately. "Maddie, I need you relaxed." Relaxed, while the father of her children tried to break into her hospital room. The shouting outside intensified. Cole barked, "Move, or I swear." "You swear what?" Graham snapped. "Threaten security? Threaten her again? The restraining order is active. Step 1 foot closer, and you're going to jail tonight." I want my children," Cole roared. "No," Graham said, voice like a blade. "You want a headlines, saving photo. You want control, but you don't get control here." Silence. A tense, vibrating silence. Then Cole's voice, low, venomous, hissed. "You think she'll choose you?" "She already did," Graham answered. Maddie gasped. Tears welled in her eyes, not from pain, not from fear, but from something deeper. Something she hadn't let herself feel in years. Someone choosing her, protecting her. Not because they wanted something, but because they cared. Dr. Reyes touched her shoulder gently. "You're safe. Focus on that." But suddenly, Maddie felt a warm rush, a terrifying one. Her breath hitched. "Doctor, something's wrong." Dr. Reyes lifted the blanket, her expression shifting instantly. Her water broke. "She's going into full labor." "No, not now," Maddie cried, panic rising. "It's too early. We're past the danger window," Dr. Reyes said firmly. "The babies are coming. Right now." Nurses rushed in, prepping the room, adjusting monitors. pulling equipment into place. The room exploded into controlled chaos. Another contraction hit intense, crushing. Maddie screamed. "Stay with me," Dr. Reyes urged. "Deep breaths, your babies need you strong." The door opened just enough for Graham to slip inside, breath ragged, eyes blazing. He went straight to her side, taking her hand. "I'm here. I'm not leaving," she sobbed. "Cole?" "Removed by security," he said softly. "He's gone." Another contraction tore through her. She cried into Graham's shoulder. And then, a wail. Small, fragile, perfect. The first twin arrived. Seconds later, another cry. The second. Tears poured down Maddie's cheeks. "They're here," she whispered. "Graham. They're here." He leaned his forehead against hers, voice breaking for the first time. "You did it, Maddie. You saved them." Outside, lightning cracked across the sky. Inside, for the first time in months, the storm finally began to break. The maternity room glowed with a soft golden haze, the storm outside finally thinning into a gentle drizzle. Two newborn cries echoed faintly through the quiet hallways, each sound fragile yet fierce tiny warriors announcing their place in the world. Maddie lay propped against her pillows, exhausted but glowing in a way she hadn't felt in years. Her twins, two impossibly small bundles wrapped in pale blue blankets, rested near her chest. A boy and a girl. Her entire universe, finally real. Graham stood beside her, awe softening every line of his face. "They're perfect," he whispered, voice cracking. "Absolutely perfect." Maddie smiled weakly. "They're fighters. They survived everything." He brushed his thumb across her knuckles, reverent. "Just like their mother." But peace never lasted long where Cole Whitford was involved, because only minutes later, the door slammed open. Security scrambled in, followed by the head of hospital administration. And behind them, Cole, hair wet from the rain, eyes wild, suit wrinkled as if he'd been sleeping in it or not sleeping at all. The moment he saw the babies, he inhaled sharply, chest heaving. "Move," he growled. "I need to see my children." Graham stepped in front of the hospital bed instantly. "You're violating the restraining order." Cole sneered. "I don't care. Those are my kids. And I'm not letting her corrupt them." Maddie felt her heartbeat spike. Not from fear this time, but from rage. Dr. Reyes rushed between them, voice stern. "Mr. Whitford, step back. This is a sterile environment." "I don't give a damn about your rules," Cole shouted. "You think she's capable of being a mother? She collapses. She breaks down. She survived you," Graham cut in. "That alone proves she's 10 times stronger than you ever will be." "No." Cole lunged forward, but security blocked him. Maddie finally found her voice. "Cole," she said softly. He froze. Not because he respected her, but because he expected her to beg. "She didn't. You lost the right to be in this room the moment you tried to erase me," she whispered. "The moment you forged my records. The moment you plotted to steal my children." His breath hitched, fury bubbling under his skin. "Everything I did was to protect my reputation." "Exactly," she said, eyes steady. "Not to protect them." The truth hit him harder than a slap. The hospital administrator stepped forward. "Mr. Whitford, per the restraining order and threats documented by security, you are forbidden from approaching Miss Harper or the infants." Cole blinked rapidly. "You can't do this. I'm their father. I deserve to hold them." Maddie's voice cracked, but not with weakness. "You don't get to hold what you tried to destroy." Cole looked at her like she'd stabbed him. Security moved in. "Sir, you need to leave." "For how long?" he demanded bitterly. The administrator didn't blink. "Until the court decides otherwise. That could take months. Then months it will be." Cole's jaw trembled not with grief, but with ego imploding on itself. He looked at Maddie, then Graham, his face twisted and pale. "This isn't over," he hissed. "You think you've won? You think you're safe?" Graham stepped forward, voice low and lethal. "Say one more word, and the next place you see won't be a hospital, it'll be a courtroom." Security escorted Cole out, his shouts echoing down the hallway like a man losing everything he thought he owned. When the door finally shut, the room fell quiet again, beautifully, blessedly quiet. Maddie sagged back into her pillows, tears slipping down her cheeks. Not from fear, from release. from relief, from the reality that she had protected her babies. Graham wiped a tear from her cheek. They're safe now. Because of you. She looked at her twins, her miracle. We're safe, she whispered. For the first time in years. She believed it. 3 days passed in a soft blur of beeping monitors, nurse check-ins, and the steady rhythm of 2 tiny heartbeats sleeping beside Maddie's hospital bed. Outside, snow-blanketed Manhattan, turning the city into something quieter, gentler, almost as if the world itself was giving her space to breathe. For the first time in months, Maddie wasn't running from anything. She was healing. The twins slept soundly in their bassinets, their chests rising and falling in perfect synchrony. Maddie watched them, her heart swelling with a mixture of fierce protectiveness and disbelief. They were perfect. They were hers. And she had survived enough storms to know she would do anything to give them a life untouched by Cole's darkness. A soft knock sounded. Graham stepped into the room, carrying 2 steaming cups of Starbucks coffee. His coat was dusted with snow, hair slightly messy from the wind, but his smile warm, steady chased the chill right off him. You look stronger today, he said, offering her a cup. Maddie took it with a tired smile. Stronger than I feel, but yes. He sat beside her. Nora called, the restraining order held. Cole's lawyers filed an emergency appeal, but the judge denied it. Relief washed over her. So he really can't come near us. Not legally. And as far as illegally? Graham's jaw hardened. Security at both entrances is doubled. His name is flagged. Cameras are monitored. He's not getting within a mile. Maddie exhaled slowly. Thank you. He hesitated before answering. You don't owe me gratitude. I do, she whispered. You've protected me more in weeks than he did in 6 years. Graham's gaze softened, but before he could speak, Nora Chambers swept into the room wearing a navy coat, heels clicking decisively, folders in hand. You ready? Nora asked. Maddie blinked. For what? Your discharge, Nora said. And your first step toward rebuilding the life he tried to take. Maddie stiffened. Already? Nora nodded. Cole is spiraling. He's scrambling to salvage what's left of his reputation. That makes him dangerous, but also sloppy. The window to strike is now. Strike. The word felt foreign on Maddie's tongue. I'm not sure I'm ready for revenge, she whispered. Nora's eyes softened, losing their usual businesslike edge. This isn't revenge, Maddie. This is reclaiming the space he stole from you. Graham added gently. It's about getting your power back. Maddie looked down at her trembling hands. Power. A word she hadn't felt connected to in years. A nurse entered with a soft bundle. Miss Harper, here are your discharge clothes. Maddie expected hospital sweatpants or a thin gown. Instead, the nurse revealed a carefully folded outfit. A cream turtleneck. A tailored beige coat. Soft wool trousers. A pair of elegant ankle boots. Graham cleared his throat. Nora picked them. Nora lifted a brow. We can't have you walking out, looking like a victim. Optics matter, Maddie. The world needs to see the woman who survived a CEO's abuse and came out stronger. Maddie hesitated. Then she nodded. The transformation wasn't dramatic, not a makeover, not glamour. But when she slipped into the warm coat and lifted her chin, something inside her shifted. She looked like someone who had endured the fire and walked through it. When she emerged into the hospital lobby, holding her babies, reporters on the sidewalk snapped pictures through the glass. Their murmurs cut through the cold air. There she is. That's her. She doesn't look broken at all. Graham placed a protective hand lightly on her back. You ready? He murmured. She looked at her twins, her fragile miracles. Then at the doors opening before her. Yes, she said softly. I am. Because the woman walking out of that hospital was not Madeline Harper, the victim of Cole Whitford. She was Maddie Harper, mother of twins. And she was done being afraid. Snow dusted the sidewalks of Park Avenue as Maddie stepped out of the black SUV, bundled in her beige coat, twins nestled safely in their carriers, and a newfound steadiness in her stride. She looked nothing like the woman who collapsed in a boardroom, nothing like the wife blindsided by betrayal. Today, she looked composed, quietly powerful. Graham was waiting for her in front of the towering Alden Capitol building, his breath visible in the winter air. You ready? He asked. Maddie adjusted the strap of one baby carrier. I don't know if anyone is ever ready for life after everything. He smiled gently. Then let's step into it together. When they entered the lobby, heads turned. Executives, assistants, interns, everyone recognized Graham Alden. But today, their eyes weren't on him. They were on her. Some whispered. Some stared with sympathy. Others with curiosity. No one knew what to make of the woman who had survived a scandal that was headlining every business outlet in the country. The elevator doors slid open, and the mirrored walls reflected her new image, calm, confident, understated but undeniably present. The twins slept soundly, unaware that their mother was walking into the next chapter of her life. When the elevator opened onto the 38th floor, Maddie stepped into a wide conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Manhattan. The skyline stretched endlessly, glittering under the winter Sunday. "This is where we begin," Graham said, guiding her inside. She glanced at the long table filled with folders, laptops, and a chrome Mont Blanc pen placed intentionally at the head seat. "I'm not sure I belong at that table," she said. Graham chuckled softly. "You belong at the head of it." Before she could respond, a woman entered mid-40 seconds, stylish, confident. "Maddie," she said warmly, extending a hand. "I'm Elise Morgan, Director of Strategic Planning. Graham's told us about your analytical models. We're impressed." "Impressed?" Maddie blinked. "By what?" Elise opened a folder and slid it toward her. "Your risk assessment framework for Whitford Labs. Before the scandal." The one Cole ignored. Maddie swallowed. "He said it was too conservative. He said that because he didn't want the truth," Elise replied. "Your model predicted the financial instability caused by his expansion plan. If he'd followed it, none of the collapse would have happened." Maddie stared at the page, her page covered in notes and highlights. Graham spoke softly behind her. "You saved a company that refused to listen. Maybe now you can help build one that will." She looked up at him, shocked. "You want to hire me?" "No," Graham said. "I want to partner with you." Her breath caught. Elise chimed in. "We want you as a strategic consultant for the Alden Foundation and Alden Capital. Flexible hours, work from home, full protection, and compensation that reflects your talent." Maddie's eyes watered. "But why me? After everything?" Graham sank into the chair beside her. "Because what happened to you wasn't weakness. It was survival. And surviving with integrity in this world? That's power." Tears slipped down her cheeks, quiet, grateful. "You're giving me a future," she whispered. "No," Graham corrected. "You're taking one." A knock sounded at the door. Nora Chambers entered, carrying a stack of documents. "I thought you should see this." She set a printed article on the table. Business Insider. Alden Capital hints at new strategic division, led by whistleblower analyst Madeline Harper. Maddie stared at her name. Her name. Not tied to a scandal. Not tied to Cole. Her own name. Her own identity. Nora smirked. "The world is already watching your next move." Maddie picked up the Mont Blanc pen, fingers trembling. Then she signed the consulting contract. Graham exhaled softly, a trace of pride in his eyes. "Welcome to the comeback," he murmured. A comeback she never thought she'd live to see. The downfall of Cole Whitford didn't happen quietly. It didn't happen politely. It happened the way all collapses of powerful men do: loud, public, messy, and devastating. 2 days after the board removed him as CEO, reporters camped outside his penthouse like vultures circling a wounded animal. The once pristine building on Fifth Avenue, home to celebrities and hedge fund kings, was now a frenzy of flashing lights and microphones. Sienna Vale pulled her Louis Vuitton duffel across the marble floor with a scowl carved into her perfect face. "I'm not doing this," she snapped. "I don't do scandals that won't die." Cole appeared from the hallway, unshaven, eyes bloodshot, wearing the same shirt he'd slept in for 2 nights. "You can't leave," he said hoarsely. "Not now." "Oh, I can leave," Sienna said coldly. "And I am." She paused to examine her reflection in the mirror, adjusting her hair. "You told me this would blow over. That I'd come out of this looking like the new face of Whitford Labs. Instead, I'm getting death threats from suburban moms." Cole ran a shaking hand through his hair. "We can fix this. I just need you to stay with me until the investigation ends." Sienna turned, lips curling into a cruel smirk. "Sweetheart, The investigation isn't ending. It's escalating. The feds want to know about the falsified documents. Your board claims they're cooperating. And the investors? What about them? Cole growled. They want to sue you. Cole's breath hitched. They can't sue me for something I didn't. They can, Sienna cut in. And they will, because Graham Alden is backing Maddie. When Alden moves, Wall Street follows. Cole froze. Sienna slung her bag over her shoulder. You should have known better than to cross a man like him. Cole stepped in front of the door. Desperation etched into his posture. You can't leave me, Sienna. Everyone else is gone, my board, my investors, the press. You always were dramatic, she said with a sigh. I didn't come here for love, Cole. I came for status. She leaned in, her breath icy against his face. And you don't have any left. She pushed past him. The door slammed. Cole stood in the empty penthouse, silent, hollow, ruined. Across Manhattan, Maddie rocked her twins in the warm living room of the temporary Alden Foundation, housing a safe, quiet penthouse overlooking Central Park. The baby's soft breathing filled the room, steady and calming. She didn't know about the chaos happening in Cole's world. She didn't need to. Her entire focus was on the two tiny miracles in her arms. The door opened softly. Graham stepped inside, carrying a stack of folders. They're asleep? Maddie nodded, smiling with the kind of tired joy that only new mothers understand. Like angels. I have news, Graham said. Big news. Her stomach tightened. About Cole? Partly. He sat beside her. But mostly about you. He handed her a folder. Inside were dozens of headlines, printed neatly. Whitford Labs stock recovers after removing controversial CEO. Harper. Alden's strategic initiative expected to shift market trends. Investors praise Madeline Harper for bravery in whistleblowing scandal. Maddie stared at her name highlighted in bold. This can't be real. It's very real, Graham said. And it's just the beginning. She swallowed. And Cole? Graham's expression darkened. Sienna left him. Investors are suing. Federal prosecutors want a full statement. From you. Her breath hitched. I'm scared. 1. That's normal, Graham said softly. But you're not alone in this. You have the truth. You have Nora. You have me. His voice dropped into something almost tender. You have an army that believes in you. A tear slipped down her cheek. Not from fear. From gratitude. Graham, she whispered. I never thought I'd have this kind of support. He brushed a tear away gently. That's because you spent years giving everything to the wrong man. The twins stirred lightly, their tiny fingers curling. Maddie held them closer. And for the first time, she felt it. The shift in power. The turning of the tide. The undeniable truth. This time, she wasn't the one falling apart. Someone else was. Someone who once believed she was powerless. And now? Cole Whitford's world was collapsing, while Maddie Harper's was rising. The night of the Alden Foundation Winter Gala arrived with the kind of icy elegance only Manhattan in December could create. Snowflakes drifted down like slow-burning stars as black cars rolled up to the entrance of the Ritz-Carlton, their polished surfaces reflecting the glittering skyline. Inside, the ballroom glowed under chandeliers shaped like frozen waterfalls, the room filled with CEOs, philanthropists, hedge fund giants, and the media elite. And tonight, they weren't here for Cole. They weren't here for Whitford Labs. They were here. For her. Madeline Harper. Graham stood beside her in the private anteroom just off the ballroom. He wore a charcoal tux, fitted perfectly to his broad frame. But he didn't outshine her. No one could. Maddie looked breathtaking. Her cream silk gown draped elegantly over her curves. Her hair swept into a soft, regal updo. A subtle diamond pendant rested against her collarbones, simple, dignified, nothing flashy. She didn't need spectacle. She was the story. You ready? Graham asked softly, adjusting a small clasp on her gown. Maddie took a long, steady breath. I'm nervous. Nervous is good, he said. It means you care. But scared? He brushed a loose strand of hair from her cheek. You don't have to be scared anymore. She smiled faintly. Not when you say it like that. A knock sounded. Elise stepped in with a clipboard. They're starting the tribute video in 3 minutes. Maddie stiffened. Are you sure about this? Showing. All of it? Graham nodded. This isn't revenge, it's truth, Elise added. And truth is why every major investor and donor is here tonight. Maddie didn't know whether to cry or breathe. She straightened her shoulders. Okay, let's do it. Graham offered his arm, and she took it. Together, they stepped into the ballroom. Heads turned instantly. Gasps echoed. Phones tilted up, capturing every step she took. Graham leaned slightly toward her. They're not staring because of what happened to you. They're staring because you walked through fire and came out glowing. When they reached the stage, the lights dimmed. The screen behind them flickered to life. A soft piano began to play. And then her story unfolded. Not the tabloid version. Not Cole's narrative. Not the whispered gossip. The truth. The video opened with photos of Maddie as a financial analyst, building her career, shaping models that saved companies, not destroy them. Then images of the scandal, her collapse in the boardroom, Cole flaunting Sienna like a shiny new prize, the headlines accusing her of instability. But then came the reversal. Screenshots from the Chronicle, evidence of the forged documents, audio of Cole's manipulation. Gasps filled the room. A woman in the front row covered her mouth. A hedge fund CEO shook his head in disgust. Someone whispered, "I can't believe he did that to his pregnant wife." Then, the video shifted to footage recorded quietly by Graham during the twins' birth. Maddie gripping his hand, her face contorted with pain and courage. Then two tiny newborns crying into the world. Maddie felt tears roll down her cheeks. The screen showed her now strong, serene, holding her children. The room erupted in applause. Graham guided her to the microphone, but Maddie shook her head. "You speak," she whispered. "I'm not ready." He nodded, stepping forward. "Tonight," Graham said, voice steady and warm, "we honor a woman who was nearly erased, a woman whose strength rewrote her destiny, a woman who chose truth over fear. This isn't just a comeback. This is the beginning of a legacy." People rose to their feet, an ovation, powerful and long. Maddie covered her mouth, overwhelmed. But then, a commotion at the back of the ballroom. The doors burst open. Cole Whitford stumbled in, disheveled, eyes wild. "Maddie," he shouted, voice cracking. "You lied about me. You ruined me." Security rushed forward. The crowd murmured, horrified. Cameras recorded every second. Cole shoved a guard aside. "Those are my children. You think you can hide them behind some billionaire?" He pointed at Graham, spit flying. "You think this is over?" The room fell silent, cold, tense. Maddie turned toward him slowly. Her voice, when she spoke, sliced the air clean in half. "Security," she said calmly. "Please remove Mr. Whitford. He does not belong in my life, or my story, anymore." Cole froze. Graham smiled faintly, victory in his eyes. Security dragged Cole away as cameras flashed like lightning. And Maddie Harper, the woman he thought he could break, stood under the chandelier glow, unshaken, untouchable, reborn. The ballroom of the Ritz-Carlton was still humming with energy long after Cole had been removed, cameras still trained on the empty doorway where he had disappeared, dragged away like a man watching the last pieces of his old life crumble. But Maddie Harper didn't look toward the chaos. She looked forward, toward the life that was finally hers. Graham stepped closer to her as the applause softened into a reverent hush. "Are you okay?" he asked gently, searching her face for cracks the world couldn't see. She nodded, wiping a stray tear. "Yes. For the first time in a long time, yes." The crowd parted, allowing Elise, Nora, and several foundation members to gather near the stage. Camera crews shifted angles. The music eased into something warm and orchestral. Nora leaned in with a soft smile. "You did the impossible, Maddie. You held your ground." Maddie exhaled, her shoulders relaxing. "I didn't do it alone." Graham's voice came from behind her. "You did more than survive. You changed the story. Yours and your children's." At the mention of the twins, her heart swelled. Upstairs, they slept safely under watch of Alden Foundation security, protected, guarded, cherished. She stepped toward the podium, her breath steady, her voice soft but unshakable. "I never wanted a spotlight," she said. "I never wanted my personal pain to become public. But life pushed me to a place where staying silent meant losing everything I loved. And tonight, standing here, I understand something I couldn't see before." Her eyes swept across the room. Strength isn't about winning every battle. It's about refusing to let someone else write your ending. The audience held its breath. A tear slipped down Maddie's cheek, but she didn't hide it. These past months broke me open, but my children stitched me back together. And every person who stood by me, every one of you, gave me a reason to stand up again. She stepped back from the microphone, and the room erupted in applause, loud, thunderous, thunder echoing through the chandeliers. Not pity, not curiosity. Respect. Deep, heartfelt respect. Graham's eyes glowed with something she couldn't name. Something warm, steady, achingly tender. He held out his hand. "Come with me," he murmured. Confused but trusting, she let him guide her down the side stairs, past the crowd and the photographers, toward a quieter balcony overlooking Central Park. Snow drifted softly across the night sky, catching the city lights like scattered diamonds. The wind nipped at her hair. She shivered, and Graham slipped off his jacket, placing it gently over her shoulders. "Maddie," he said, voice low, "there's something I've wanted to say for years, but you were never free until now." She turned to him, heart thudding. "I didn't help you out of obligation," he said, "or guilt, or strategy." He paused, breath visible in the cold. "I did it because I've loved you since the moment I met you." Her breath caught. He continued, "Not the broken version of you. Not the wife fighting a battle she didn't deserve. I loved you because you're brilliant, kind, stronger than you know, and you make every room feel a little less cold." Tears blurred her vision. Graham stepped closer. "You don't have to answer anything tonight," he whispered, "but I need you to know my heart is yours, if you'll have it." A soft cry came from behind them, a familiar, tiny cry. The twins. The nanny stepped forward from inside the ballroom doorway, holding the babies bundled in soft blankets. "They woke up," she whispered, smiling. Maddie took them gently, one in each arm, and when she lifted her gaze, Graham was looking at her the way no one ever had. Not as someone to own, not as someone to break, but as someone worthy of eternity. In that moment, Maddie finally understood. This wasn't the end of her story. It was the beginning of her real life. Graham took her free hand. "Maddie Harper," he said softly, "let me spend the rest of my life protecting you, loving you, and loving them." A single snowflake landed on her cheek. She smiled through tears. "Yes," she whispered. 1,000 times yes." Behind them, the city glowed brighter. Ahead of them, a new life opened, safe, warm, and finally hers. And just like that, our story comes to an end. But you, my wonderful friends, you're still here with me, aren't you? If you're watching until this final moment, then something in Maddie's journey touched your heart in its own quiet way. Maybe her strength reminded you of your own. Maybe her pain felt familiar. Maybe her healing lit a small light inside you. The Stoics used to say, "The obstacle is the way." Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Maddie's story is proof. Life can break us, betray us, shake every bone in our spirit, but we choose how the story ends. We choose whether we stay down or rise again with a wiser, stronger heart. So as we close this chapter, I want you to remember, you, too, can walk away from what hurts you. You, too, can rebuild. You, too, deserve a life that feels safe, warm, and yours. If this story touched you, please like the video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps these stories reach more hearts, maybe the ones hurting in silence right now. Thank you for being here. Truly,